understand all that they have to bring to the table to be successful. And that's what I've said to the CEOs. For them, it's just a continuation of their university life. They've taken all the things they've learned about time management, about focus, about commitment, basically, and they've just transferred it from the school environment to the work environment.
Do you see a time where a Cleveland State diploma, and maybe that's now because you're around there and you worked at Princeton, you could hold up either one and the recruiter would look at Cleveland State before maybe Princeton?
No.
All right. Just because you worked at Princeton? Or?
No. You know, and that's not the goal you need to shoot for. I don't think that's the goal we need to shoot for. We're not going to be Princeton. You know, we don't have the lineage of Princeton. We don't have the resources of Princeton, unless someone's going to write a $7 billion check before we walk out the door. All right. We don't have the resources. What we want to be is first among our peers. So if we can be first among our peers, I think that's a really admirable goal.
That's part of my question. For a while, maybe nobody knew what Cleveland State was supposed to be or what the school wanted to be, and you're helping define that now.
Yeah, and again, I think that you're right. And I think that part of what we're doing, I hope part of what we're doing and what we're succeeding is, as you're saying, that all this is also a definition building process. So it's an urban university, and we've staked out I think a very handsome corridor along Euclid Avenue because an urban university ought to have that kind of presence, ought to help generate other kinds of activities and support other kinds of activities, and it ought to be intricately linked into the life of the city in the way that I've talked about. Case is a national university. I mean, it's a AAU university, a top 50 university. Its benefits redound to Cleveland, but its mission is somewhat different. So I think that we need to compare apples and apples in terms of where we want to be and how we're doing.
No, I think that's important to do, but you're taking the flag out. You're showing people in different parts of the country that this might be a great place to come and learn.
You know, people, at least in my travels around the United States before I came to Cleveland State, people around the country think that Cleveland State is a lot better of an institution than Clevelanders think that Cleveland State is. Because Cleveland State, for a number of years, and particularly this year when it got a little more competitive, we all know that U.S. News and World Report puts out a biblical edition of America's best colleges. And they identify somewhere around 200 of America's best universities. There are about 3,000 accredited universities in the United States. Cleveland State is in the list, U.S. News and World Report list, of the 200, or their category of the best universities in the United States. That's a pretty good imprimatur. But very few people, very few of our students, very few of our faculty realize that that's where Cleveland State is. So in some ways, I'm helping us catch up nationally or catch up locally with where we are nationally.
How hard is it, how important is it to recruit faculty of a higher caliber? No offense if there are professors here, they might be high caliber already. To build the university up and the focus of the school.
It's, you know, it's enormously important. It obviously is the day-to-day transaction of the student. And another piece that was very attractive to me about Cleveland State is that they really have an exceptionally well-qualified faculty. And last year when we did recruiting, if you went down the list of schools where our faculty came from, you saw Harvard, you saw Hopkins, you saw Columbia, you saw Yale, you saw Michigan, you saw The Ohio State. I mean, schools that produce PhDs who have a lot of choices. And my theory about it, and people know more about it than me, my theory about one of the reasons why they were able to assemble such an exceptional faculty in so many disciplines is that Cleveland is such a intellectual-friendly city. If you're an intellectual, it's really a good place to be. I mean, we don't have dialogues like this in Miami. We don't have a lot of civic discourse in Miami. And I think that's a really important part of Cleveland and something that you've done for a long time. And I think that's something that we ought to hold on to at all costs, whether it's the Union Club or the City Club or here or Town Hall or the library system. This notion that talking, listening, reflecting, questioning still matters is becoming a unique American treasure, and I think we ought to be proud of it and hold on to it. And we try to expose as many students as we can to this kind of discourse.
So it's a different kind of student, different kind of professor who would like an urban experience.
Yeah, it is. It's a different kind of professor who wants an urban experience and who values all of these assets that I've talked about in Cleveland and say, if I'm going to be in a university, I'd like to have a world-class art museum. I'd like to have exposure to music, to theater, to a great library system, and to like-minded thinkers.
Well, I think there's something uniquely wonderful about somebody who wants to become a part of an urban community, who wants to teach, for example, a doctor who wants to go to work with inner-city folks when most people would want to go to Princeton and go live in a huge house and enjoy the fruits of the suburbs.
Yeah, yeah. I think. And I think that the students at CSU really have, by and large, no sense of entitlement. I think they're there for sound reasons and good reasons, and you try to instill as best you can. We should do it more than in graduation speeches, but we should take every occasion to instill that we are preparing not just to enter an economy and to make a living, but we're hopefully preparing them for a life that is going to be fulfilling and meaningful in the things that they are able to contribute.
This has been a hard city to move forward politically in education. In some ways, do you feel a little bit of pressure for your experiment? In a sense, it's an experiment. If you succeed, that would radiate out to other parts of this area.
I think it's the hope. I really do. I think that experiments and wins and models, basically, that haven't been tried and are successful and have applicability will begin to radiate out. And it's interesting in terms of the International Baccalaureate K through 12 school. The group at CSU who has been putting that together has gotten on treaties from 6 or 7 other communities, wondering whether we'd be interested in going out to, I won't name communities, Community X, and working to put together an international baccalaureate school there. So it's precisely what you say. People, and I think it's again a great asset of Cleveland. People are still interested in the new. People are still interested in breaking some new ground.
If I were to drive by the university, and I do admit this, but somebody out here hasn't, what would they notice different from a year ago?
Well, I think the first thing that you hopefully notice is different is this spectacular new student center, which was designed by a spectacular international architect, Charles Gwatney, who did the Smithsonian, the extension of the Guggenheim, Steven Spielberg's digs in LA. But you'd notice it, I think, because it's a incredibly looking building. But the reason I'd like you to notice it is it really is the home for students. A student center, particularly for commuting students, is their sense of place. And I heard stories maybe during the time that your wife was at Cleveland State, or maybe, 10, 12, 14 years ago, of faculty members telling me that after they parked their car, and as they walked towards their class, they would see kids sitting in their cars, studying in their cars. For lack of a place to put their stuff down, to get something to eat, to be warm, etc., that's what was left of them. So this great new student center, I think, will become a seminal part of the campus. Then you'll see these dormitories, and you'll see a new education and nursing building. And what you'll continue to see, I hope, is, is this continued sense of life, vitality, growth, etc.
All at Cleveland State University. Let's take a break. We'll be back.
Thank you.
As the song goes, the world will always welcome lovers as time goes by, and we will always welcome lovers at Executive Caterers. For a wedding reception you'll always remember, come to our place or we'll go to yours.
Is it getting so frustrating at your office that it's harder and harder and harder to get any work done? You need services you can count on, starting with business class phone from Time Warner Cable Business Class. Get business class phone and receive up to 6 months free internet or cable TV. Why put up with more frustrations than you have to? Enjoy our reliable solutions. Get business class phone and receive up to 6 months free internet or cable TV. Time Warner Cable Business Class.
You live in Ohio, you work in Ohio, and when you have questions about your health insurance, you like talking with someone who's right here in Ohio. That's why you carry the Medical Mutual card. Our card comes with the best customer service anywhere. More than 2,700 dedicated employees are right here in Ohio. It's our job to take care of your healthcare needs, so you can focus on what's most important, getting well. Medical Mutual, the official health insurer of the Cleveland Indians, Cavaliers, and Browns.
The Executive Caterers Corporate Club at Landerhaven is a program that deals with the people and the issues that affect you right here in Northeast Ohio. Here's what's on our next program.
John Stropke of Lincoln Electric, John Grabner of Cardinal Fastener, and Magnets Daniel Berry will discuss whether manufacturing is on the rebound in Northeast Ohio, moderated by Steve Gladura of Inside Business.
To make reservations, call the Executive Caterers at Landerhaven.
All right, we have some audience questions now. If they're tough, Mike Wallace-like, I will interrupt and take care of you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
All right, go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Berkman. Stuart Musinski from Project Love. How are you?
How are you?
Good. I'd like to address your concept of engaged learning. As I understand it, engaged learning is not only engaging the student in the community, other experiences, but engaging that student in, to a certain extent, serving the community. And it's with that background that I ask this question. CEOs I speak to tell me that they hire on competence, but they fire on character. To what extent, especially in the wake of the Great Recession, which was so influenced by the character or lack thereof of certain people in our economy, can engaged learning take on a character element as well? And to that extent, if you agree with that, to what extent can CSU be a leader in adding value to the workforce pipeline by the CSU graduate being an individual who not only is competent in performance, but competent in character?
That's a really good question. What we are doing and what we need to continue to do and refine is, as part of a student's co-op or internship experience, we are first trying to provide them with a semester's worth of work in what I would call the soft skills. in just basic presentation skills, communication, business, negotiation, because a lot of our kids have not had the advantage of sitting around the dinner table discussing, discussing great events or art or music, etc. So they lack some of those skills, and those skills are important in making them competitive. The other piece is a business ethics piece. So we are also going to incorporate in their preparation as they go simultaneously through this internship a strong piece of business ethics. So they'll be required to do both. I can't promise you it will transform the universe, all right? But I can tell you that this is an opportunity for us to talk to our students about doing right and doing wrong, and the beauty of doing right, okay, and the banality of doing wrong. So I think it's really an important part where we can capture their attention, particularly as they begin to make this transition into the workforce. So thank you for the question, and thank you for reinforcing the notion that it really is a responsibility.
Integrity matters. Integrity matters. Another question out here.
Right here.
Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Beth Lockshan. I work for Western Reserve PBS. I just had a question about this school. Do you plan on drawing students throughout Northeast Ohio for the baccalaureate school?
For the K through 12 school?
K through 12, right.
The K through 12 school has a really interesting, I think, an interesting and purposeful entry formula. So here's basically the formula without giving you the hard percentages. Some number of seats are first reserved for people who live in the neighborhood and for faculty and staff of CSU. Live in the neighborhood because we want, as I said, the school to be a reason why people will go move to the neighborhood. So if they move to the neighborhood and they can't use the school, it's less impelling. Then there's a portion of the population that will be chosen by lottery from the Cleveland Municipal School District. And I'm an advocate that we do this by lottery and not do it by admissions or entrance tests, particularly for kindergarten students who have trouble filling in. They can fill in the black boxes, but it's the, it's the essay questions that vex them. But I'm serious about the lottery piece because I think you want to be able to claim that you've succeeded when you can demonstrate that you've succeeded in teaching a broad cross-section of students with a broad cross-section of skills, not to select the best, to give them the best, and then to have a eureka moment and say, look, they turned out to be the best. The third cohort of students, and to this I give full credit to Mayor Jackson and to the superintendent, will be students from anywhere in Cuyahoga County who want to enroll in an international baccalaureate program. So there will be some number, probably something on the order of 20% of the seats that will be reserved for parents who want their students to get that kind of education. So I think it's a really interesting enrollment formula, and it succeeds in the multiple purposes that I talked about for the school.
Yes, sir.
Charles Menschner. Dr. Berkman, you mentioned the frequency with which people change careers. One of the things I gather that keeps many young people from staying in Cleveland or coming to Cleveland is the difficulty of changing careers here, the lack of options. And I'm wondering, does that make you think that you should do more interdisciplinary studies at CSU?
Yeah, I said, it's a very good question also, and I said early on that in some ways, even if people come in believing, that from their very young years, all I ever wanted to be was an accountant. I woke up and I was 6 years old and I knew I wanted to be an accountant, basically. And that's where they're headed. Even for those students who feel like they have a pretty good career trajectory, I think we still have an obligation, really, to give them an opportunity to experience different things and to give them this set of skills. And that set of skills is by its very nature interdisciplinary. It's speaking, it's writing, it's being analytic, it's being fluent, it's understanding something about what a statistic means. It's a broad-based foundation that will allow them to. They say this about legal education. I mean, there's a growing number, and it has been for almost a decade now, of individuals, and there may even be a couple in this room, who went to law school but don't practice law. And they say the advantage, I can't attest to it myself, but the advantage of a legal education is it is such a good foundational education in reading and writing and in organization that it really is a good crossover preparation. So if you don't want to be a lawyer when you finish, you bring a set of skills to the table which allow you to do something else. Are there any of those such people in the room?
Any non-practicing lawyers?
Are you one, or you have a question?
Hi, I'm Dan Hansen with ClevelandPeople.com. One of the things that make the college experience richer and make the whole community richer is an international presence. Besides the IB degree, what are your efforts to attract and retain international students, and what are your thoughts on the proposed International Welcome Center right at 18th and Euclid?
We were in the first conversation about a international welcome center at 18th and Euclid. The very first time that it was broached, we were there. I think we've seen it work in other cities, and I think it is an important part of an equation of attracting immigrants to Cleveland. We've seen a really dramatic growth in international education, international students at Cleveland State. And I think we're going to continue to see a growth, and because there are places like India, right? India has, I believe these numbers are correct, India has something like 250 million students currently in the Indian equivalent to high school, and they have about 1.7 million college spots for those students. So the 700 number is the number that the Indian government says, the number of universities they're going to build in the next 5 years in India, 700 universities. But even if they build those 700 universities, you'll still have 500 or 600 students waiting for each college spot. So I think we're going to see countries like that, where we're going to see more students who are going to be able to come to the United States to be able to get an education in the United States. And I think it's important that we make it friendly, that the environment work.
All right, one last question. Harlan, it's all yours.
I don't have a question today. I want to thank you. Bill, you've been a marvelous moderator. Thank you. Dr. Berkman?
Yeah, good.
Thank you, Doctor.
Dr. Berkman, you're part of a chain of wonderful presidents that have come to Cleveland State. I have marveled over the years at the talent that they have been able to attract at the top. Cleveland, the history of Cleveland has been created by its ethnic communities. And I think that's part of what you're seeing and you're living with and you're being able to develop. Good luck to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's not be the weeping person at the gates of the ballpark saying we don't deserve this. Let's not only deserve it, but as you said, great doctor, we should demand it. Greatness. Thank you for being here, and let's go Cleveland State
Thank
University.
you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Join us on Thursday, August the 5th for the Executive Caterers Corporate Club at Landerhaven as Steve Gloduro of Inside Business interviews John Stropke, CEO of Lincoln Electric, John Grabner, CEO of Cardinal Fastener, and Daniel Berry, CEO of Magnet, about whether manufacturing is on the rebound in Northeast Ohio.
Corporate Club is brought to you by Executive Caterers at Landerhaven, a special place for special occasions. Presenting sponsorship from PNC. Time Warner Cable Business Class, making more of every minute with the speed you need. Medical Mutual of Ohio, Ohio's Get Well card, offering health plans for life. Inside Business Magazine, your source for business in Northeast Ohio. 90.3 Idea Stream, the all-day brain food. And Great Lakes Integrated, the new face of graphic communications. Supporting sponsorship comes from the Greater Cleveland Partnership, a catalyst for change. Northern Ohio Area Chambers of Commerce. A portion of the proceeds of Corporate Club at Landerhaven benefits junior achievement of Greater Cleveland.